what a month it has been, especially for those of us in the crypto world. Some talk about this as the crypto winter, which I really like the metaphor because it implies that spring is not that far away. Now, what we do know is that the seeds of the next upcycle are planted during crypto winters, and that's when they grow. And today, I want to talk about exactly that. Now, I'm not going to try to guess the next big thing. That's a fool's errand. What I want to do, and what I think is more interesting, is to try to spot the main trends that will carry us through the next upcycle. And for that, we need a framework. Four factors made the crypto craze we've been through between 2020 and 2022 possible, and these were cheap money because of very low interest rates and government handouts, abundance of time because we were all locked up in our houses during the pandemic, relatively cheap energy prices, and relative global political stability because all our governments were very busy trying to sort out the mess of the pandemic. Now that all of these four factors are gone, the question is, what will survive this crypto winter? Let's start with blockchains. I do not think that the belief in the potential of blockchain technologies are being affected by dwindling time, money, or higher gas prices. In fact, Andreessen Horowitz just recently announced a $4.6 billion fund just for crypto projects. This is telling something. It is interesting to note that blockchain technologies are being reversely affected by political instability. Crypto companies have spent $9.3 million this year only to lobby the United States Congress, and what they're trying to do, very cleverly I might add, is to frame blockchain technologies just like AI technologies, in that they want the United States government to consider blockchain technologies as a tool in the big power rivalry. Let me give you an example. Freedom of information is very critical for Western governments. And in some parts of the world, censorship is an issue. Now, what is hoped through blockchain technologies is to be able to create an internet that is harder to censor. Now, I think you might see how that might sound appealing to certain Western governments. There are two main discussions to look out for and to follow in the context of blockchain technologies, and those are scalability and speed. Basically, we want better blockchains and faster blockchains. Now, this is hoped to be achieved, at least on the Ethereum side, through ETH 2.0, the long-awaited ETH 2.0. But it seems like with danksharding and the roll-up discussions, this seems to be coming closer and closer. Now let's talk a little about cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies have reached the highest level of adoption they've seen so far, and they made a lot of noise doing so. I'm afraid because of that, regulations are coming. No government have the luxury of taking the risk of cryptocurrency bubble bursts. They're now seen as a threat to financial markets, and governments are rushing to regulate crypto. Now, I think that the first section of crypto to be regulated will be stablecoins, mostly because governments are jealous organizations and they don't want to give up their sovereign rights on their ability to create money, and having a cryptocurrency pegged to their national currency is more of an annoyance to them. But what's interesting is that they can't and they won't deny the technology, the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies. So I think we will be seeing more of central bank digital currencies like the one the British government is trying to implement.
I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency, the group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins. Unlike most of the digital money people use daily today, it would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK.
Now, I know that regulation is a no-no word in the crypto space, but maybe, just maybe if we take a step back, we might see that it might not be such a bad thing. I think regulation might lead to higher levels of adoption, which we all want, and hopefully less rug pulls. Of course, this will come at a cost, and that cost is likely to be anonymity, because I expect much more KYC enforcement in the crypto space in the coming years. This has also been a very interesting time for those of us studying the crypto space, because we were able to test two main assumptions. And those were, first, cryptocurrencies are a hedge against inflation. And that proved to be not true at all. Now that we have real inflation, cryptocurrencies aren't protecting anyone. But second assumption that we've been able to test was that cryptocurrencies are a hedge against political inflation. And that, surprisingly, proved to be true. When the war in Ukraine started, I expected it to devastate the crypto markets, which surprisingly did not happen. In fact, people used cryptocurrencies to be able to transfer their assets, take their money with them, while crossing the borders trying to flee the war. And that is a very interesting and new development that we hadn't seen before. What remains to be seen is crypto's claim to democratize finance, or banking the bankless, if you will. But I think this will take a bit more time, because the demand side for this is they are under the pressure of the market crash, and the supply side is under a regulatory push. Now let's talk about NFTs, and more precisely, let's talk about crypto art and collectibles. The crypto art space started to flourish with digital artists, and on their success, other artists were able to build, such as photographers, painters, or musicians. One very interesting dynamic that I've been able to observe is the artist turned collector dynamic. I've noticed that artists with a certain amount of sales have actually chose to become collectors themselves, and that is one of the core underpinnings of the crypto art space. Now here are some striking figures for you. OpenSea has paid $3.9 billion in royalties to creators using their platform this past year, and contrast that with Meta's $1 billion allocation to be paid to creators on their platform throughout 2022. Now consider that there are only 55 million people using MetaMask as opposed to billions using Facebook. So it is very clear where the money is for creators, and I have no doubt that they will stay in the crypto art space. They are not leaving. Now what we will have to see is whether the money, the collectors, will be able to sustain that ecosystem. And I think the answer is yes, mostly because the artist turned collector dynamic, but also because the native collectors of the crypto art space are crypto savvy people with long-term perspectives, and they have seen crypto winters before, so they keep collecting. But the market crash will of course have a toll on the crypto art market as well. Crypto art market has been polarized for a while. This is not new, but I think it will be exacerbated by the crypto market crash. In down cycles, collectors might prefer to collect from established artists, the top 10, top 20 top selling artists, because they might see it as a safer bet. And that dynamic makes it harder for new coming artists to make their first sales. Let me end this with one interesting trend that I've been seeing in the crypto art space, and that is artists are now going towards controlling their own blockchains, owning their own blockchains, as opposed to selling on curated platforms. And I think that is a dynamic to watch for, because it will help shape the future of the space. On the flip side of the token are collectibles. Okay, that wasn't my best pun, but I am much less optimistic about collectibles. I think we've seen so many bad projects. At some point, it was almost like scratch cards that we're buying, hoping that the project we were buying would be the next Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I think only a few of them will be able to make it through the crypto winter. Those will be mostly blue chip projects that were able to deliver on their promise and keep their communities alive. And also maybe a few overachievers, but I don't think that we will need more than two hands to be able to count the amount of collectible projects that will be able to make it through the crypto winter. While the crypto winter might freeze a lot of the projects, not a lot of project founders will be able to pull the plug. Why? Well, mostly because governments worldwide are going after rug pullers, and crypto is not that secluded space anymore. It is more exposed to control. In this year only, and this is only June, the United States government fined $179 million to different crypto projects. And I think many project leaders will be too afraid to pull the plug on their project. So what they'll do is that they'll show up just enough not to be called rug pullers, but they won't do much in terms of pushing the project forward. So we will see a lot of zombie projects. Now let's end with metaverses. There are two main actors building in this space. First is the crypto native platforms such as OnCyber and Sandbox that have first mover advantage. Second is traditional technology companies such as Meta or Microsoft. Now, while the more native companies have a little bit of an edge, since traditional technology companies control the hardware and have access to much larger crowds, there is a strong chance of leapfrogging or at least catching up. The main discussions about the future of the metaverse revolve around two main issues. First is the engagement problem. We need a convincing answer to the why question, why you should put on a headset and sit at home instead of spending your time outside with your friends in a beautiful summer day. What makes VR, the metaverse, more engaging? There, we still need a convincing answer. The second issue is compatibility. Now, the Web3 thing to do here would be to make these platforms as open as possible so that they are easier to integrate. And there are companies like Improbable.io that are working on it, but it's still not a done deal. And unless we fix this issue, we might find ourselves in a similar situation to the early 2000s Microsoft Apple divide. All right, let's end the video right here. As always, nothing here has been legal or financial advice. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video and let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.